Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning has been on the Milwaukee Film Festival that's happening September 28th through October 12th. We were just joined by Dr. Dante McFadden, who is a co-programmer for the film festival's Black Lens program. And we're now being joined by Nate Hamilton. He and his family are familiar faces in the city of Milwaukee because for the past 3 years, they've refused to allow the death of their loved one, Dontre Hamilton, be in vain, and they've become leaders in the movement to help change the way police interact with its citizens. How are you, Nate?
I'm doing good.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
And it feels just like yesterday that your brother passed away, but in fact 3 years have gone by since the whole tragedy of former police officer Christopher Manning shooting your brother 14 times at Red Arrow Park. If it feels like just yesterday to me, it probably feels the same to you.
Every day is like, you wake up and you're like,
did that really happen?
Did it really happen? And every time you see his picture, you question like, why it have to happen?
Yeah.
So it still resonates with us, on a day-to-day basis. I don't think we can ever go a day thinking, not thinking what happened to Dontre and how this city felt about it, and our journey throughout the process was very, we had to stay strong, but it was also tough and very stressful at times.
I'm sure of it. And the interesting thing, we've been talking about this documentary, and the time has come for people to actually get a chance to see it. And that journey and that pain and all the things that you just spoke about was captured on film. Milwaukee filmmaker Eric Young was right there through a lot of the behind the scenes of what was going on. He was there for the marches that many of us saw on television. And this documentary is called The Blood is at the Doorstep. How did you first make contact with Eric Young and connect to do this?
We were out at Red Arrow Park, and a girl that worked with the coalition very closely introduced us and said, hey, this is Eric, and he's a photographer, and he just wants to basically come around and follow you. And I thought he was just like any other media person. I'm like, sure, do what you do.
Yeah.
And I think as we got more intense, he started to think to himself, hey, maybe this is something I want to embark in a little more and show a little more in-depth story of what's happening. And we agreed to that. We agreed to, so that we can offer transparency where it was denied through local media stations. We thought if we had that access to videos of what we were doing, we can kind of answer the questions that were denied through media. And Eric gave us that opportunity, so we are very appreciative of that.
Yeah, and I think that with the whole concept of how the news works with just sound bites and bits and pieces, you can't tell a whole story during a newscast, obviously. You had people who came to their own conclusions, and I get angry every time I read certain comments when a story comes out online. People really don't have all the facts, and they kind of just spew out their opinion without even really knowing what happened. But if they really care, this is their opportunity to really understand what happened and what it did to your family.
Yeah, showing a narrative, and having control of that narrative was like something we thought we should do. Create a narrative around bad policing, around issues that would continue to cause issues when it comes to African American communities and brown communities of how police officers engage with people. So those challenges, we were able to take what we recorded, what Eric recorded, and make little snippets, and post those on our Coalition for Justice page, and just to give people a more in-depth idea of what we were doing, what we were asking for. We wasn't just protesting. We wasn't just walking and marching and talking. We had actual goals, and we had demands that we felt were very were very valid.
Overlooked,
they were valid, and we wanted people to understand, because they would look at us and they would say, this family needs to go back into their hole, or they need to, go to work and, do all those things. And through that process, Eric recorded me not only working, but in school for carpentry, showing my mom and my brother in their day-to-day life and what we had to, go through on top of being at Red Arrow Park at 5 o'clock to, to lead a march. We had a very intense day, leading up into that, because we still had to live life. We still had to provide for ourselves and our children. So it wasn't as simple as just going out there and saying we want justice.
Yeah, and another thing I think that is helpful if people just put themselves in the position of knowing how hard it is to lose a loved one, especially when it was in a scenario that had to do with somebody else's quick decision that's not so-called justified, but to also have to fight for that loved one's justice, that in itself is extremely tiring when you think about what it does to you emotionally, mentally, physically, all those things.
Yeah, and you see it today. It's like, we went through that total process. This officer never went to jail. Federal charges was never brought against him. So it's so discouraging seeing other families have to go through these issues.
Because you know what it feels like.
Yeah, I know what it feels like, and I know at the end of the day that they don't charge these officers. These officers are able to go home to their families, are able to live life like nothing ever happened. And
in Manny's case, still pull a percentage of his paycheck.
Correct. So it's very intense and stressful, and I think this film will lead people into the right direction. It won't be misleading in any way. It shows so many different sides, not just our side, but it shows the DA's perspective. It shows the chief of police perspective. And it shows other people in the community engaging and talking about how they feel as well. So it's not just us saying, no, show how we feel. Show our narrative and show
the whole picture.
It's the whole picture.
Yeah.
And we want it to be clear. We ask for transparency, and we feel that we should deliver that as well as a family and as supporters of who Dontre was.
Yeah, just to give a little background on the director, Eric Young. He's produced content and short documentaries for the New York Times, Al Jazeera, and the Wall Street Journal, just to name a few. And The Blood is at the Doorstep has actually been shown at several film festivals across the country. You and your mom and your brother, your family members have traveled across this country to show this documentary.
Yeah,
all right.
We've done a lot of traveling, and it's been an amazing journey in the reception that we get when we get to these places. We walk into a theater and no one recognizes who we are, but once they watch this film and once they tell the audience that we are there, we get standing ovations.
Wow.
People are really in tune to listen to what we have to say during the panel discussions afterwards. And I try to give advice and help, people along the way. We were just in D.C. and the ACLU had brought us out there, and that was a great experience. They had some youth there that was doing organizing around social justice issues, and I just want to give them some, inspiring words to encourage them, because you do get those days where you just want to step back, go into that dark room, and cry and let it all out, and just give up. You have those moments because this system has been, to me, created to defeat us. And when we see defeat, I think we all just back up, instead of saying, you know what, let's try again, let's try harder, let's try new tactics. And I think that's what I hope this film resonates with people and say, hey, let's continue to organize, let's continue to create new tactics, let's continue to establish love and respect within ourselves, within our own communities, so that we are more powerful when addressing these issues.
All right, and with no further ado, we need to take a look at this trailer right now. The Blood is at the Doorstep.
See what we gotta go through? Working with Dontre got me into this crap.
Dontre and they actually grew up like twins.
He was the baby, and we couldn't let nothing happen to the baby. I just hope people can understand that Dontre was a person who didn't deserve to die, who didn't deserve to be shot 14 times.
1246, shots fired, officer involved. Was gonna hit me in the head with my own bat and shots fired. Starbucks, help right now.
You don't know this, but when somebody gets killed by a police officer, whoever gets the information out first is the winner.
The decedent is Dontre Hamilton. in a violent, combative, mentally ill individual.
He's homeless, he's angry, he's violent. I'm like, you're lying.
It's the illness. It's nothing to be afraid of.
I solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be
It's nothing that anybody should die for.
Dear Lord, thank you for this food and thank you for blessing my family. Amen.
Amen. I saw pictures of this officer with no wounds, no bruises.
It was a fear. There could be a weapon such as a knife.
There's something that's systemically wrong here in the city of Milwaukee.
99% of the people in this room have not been in that situation.
Once Ferguson broke, it wasn't a mental health story anymore. It was a race story.
After a man was shot 14 times.
You will not be happy until the officer is behind bars.
I need to have a community where police and citizens can trust each other.
When will we stand up?
This community is at risk already. And it's not because men and women in blue risk their lives protecting us.
Are you more likely to support them or no?
We demand justice or else.
You don't know what's actually going to hit you in life. This fight kind of keeps us breathing and living down track. The blood is at the doorstep.
Every time I see it, it's heavy. That is heavy. So what happens to you when you see it?
You know, it's like, it hurts, you know, but it also, it just reignites me in a way, to have that, that mentality to go out there and to help change things for the better, to help do preventative work. You know, like over these past few months and going so hard, it was like I need to collect myself, and to reestablish who I am, who I want to be, because it was still something that I was thrown into. You know, not necessarily saying, yeah, I want to be an activist. You know, I think I was just gave that title, and I was just being a brother. So now it's like, okay, do I take it a step further, and how do I engage with the community? How do I get them to support me and stand behind me and recognize that my love for their safety is really genuine? Yeah. And so now it's like, hey, me taking steps to get back reacquainted with the community, and establish who I am outside of Dontre too, so people can, you know, attach themselves to my leadership.
And before we run out of time, I just want to let everybody know that The Blood is at the Doorstep is a centerpiece at the Milwaukee Film Festival this year. You're going to be showing it Friday, October 6th and 7th at the Oriental Theater, and then Tuesday, October 10th at the Times Cinema. All the details are online at mkefilm.org. Thank you, Nate, for coming by. It is always a pleasure, and you just keep on keeping on.
Yes, ma'am.
Nate Hamilton is the co-founder of the Coalition for Justice. The documentary is Blood is at the Doorstep. It's going to be shown again October 6th and 7th and October 10th at this year's Milwaukee Film Festival. The 15-day festival again takes place September 28th through October 12th. Visit their website at mkefilm.org. That's going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues in Milwaukee. Have a great day.